अमृतोद्भवाय सर्वविद्यास्वरूपाय लक्ष्मी संश्लिष्टवक्षसे मदुपासनलक्ष्याय हयग्रीवाय मङ्गलम् हयग्रीवाय शङ्खचक्रमहामुद्रा पुस्तकाढ्यं चतुर्भुजम् सम्पूर्णचन्द्रसङ्काशम् हयग्रीवमुपास्महे हयग्रीवमुपास्महे ज्ञानानन्दमयं रामम् निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं तत्त्वविद्यानां हयग्रीवायितं नुमः हयग्रीवायितं नुमः शङ्कराचार्य नवावतारम् विश्वेश्वरं विश्वगुरुं प्रणम्य वेदान्तशास्त्र श्रवणालसानां बोधाय कुर्वे किमपि प्रबन्धम् बोधाय कुर्वे किमपि प्रबन्धम् श्रीमद्हयग्रीव पदारविन्द कारुण्यमारङ्ग रसप्रसङ्ग मन्दाशयोद्धारण बद्धबुद्धिः सिद्धान्तबिन्दुं विपुलीकरोमि सिद्धान्तबिन्दुं विपुलीकरोमि हरि ओम। Witnessing is an impersonal and inborn aspect and characteristic of the consciousness itself. It is not taken from outside. It is already there with the consciousness as its own characteristic, which is there within itself because it is inborn. And more than that, it is impersonal. There is no ego element involved with it. It is impersonal because it is connected with consciousness. So, whenever we understand this aspect of consciousness and utilize this aspect which is there naturally present in us, it would be of a great help to us. Witnessing or observing does not focusing on an image or an idea, but allowing these ideas and images to flow by without any involvement. Otherwise, as a personal ego, individualistic ego, if any ideas and images pass by, there is an identification and involvement. That is the reason for various other entanglements. But here, as the witness, as the observer, same thing happens even now also. Ideas will be there, cropping up in the mind, passing through the mind. Images will be there. But earlier, holding on to them, trying to resist them, arrest them, confine them. But now, no such involvement, allowing them to pass by. We just allow it to pass by. Sometimes when we want to cross the road, of course, there are people who cross the road, whatever might be the flow of the traffic. But those people who have some sense of traffic, they will wait for the traffic to come to a halt and then they cross the road. Because that is the safer way to cross the road. Not cause any confusion to the traffic also, traffic constable also, to oneself also. We can't do anything there. We have to wait for it to come to a halt or at least become less flowing. Then it becomes easy. Here also, inside the mind also, the traffic is going on. And we are not the cause of the traffic on the road. It is happening because of so many things. Similarly, the inner traffic also, there is no personal I actually causing this traffic, but the traffic is on. So the best thing would be to witness and observe and not to get involved and allow them to flow by. If we don't involve and allow them to flow by, it is a very comfortable situation because there is no me element involved there. At that time, they thought that is there in our mind is the understanding is thoughts are not mine. There is no me involved. Finished. Thoughts or images or ideas are not mine. And I am not involved with them. They are not mine, I am not involved with them. Then what? Then you are not bothered about it. Then you are not affected by it. So this also is one of the very nice spiritual practices to get disidentified, distanced and yet remain unaffected, but still we are participating as an observer in the flow. See, it is said that the physical eye sees images. The eye sees images. It just sees the images. Does it claim an authorship of these images? I am creating these images, I have created all the images, whatever images I am seeing, I am responsible for that. I doesn't create an authorship for these images. It just sees it. Knows it with the help of the mind, understands it, experiences it, that's all different issue altogether. Eye sees it. Ears also hear the sounds. Do they create authorship for these sounds? Do they claim that we are the authors for these sounds? No, ears don't claim that they are authors for these sounds. Similarly with the fragrance also, and so on and so forth. But somewhere, this personal I starts claiming, I am the author for all the thoughts that are there. Just as the eye sees the images, ear hears the sounds, and they don't claim that they are the authors. But here also, this ego is seeing these thoughts, but it claims, I am the author. I only have created. Already we have seen that it happens in 1/10,000 of a second, and then after the thought appears, and suddenly the ego claims the authorship and all that. But actually, no such authorship need to be claimed. There is no single individual person called as I who is the author of these thoughts. Just as there is no single individual ego who is the cause for all the images and all the sounds. Brahman alone might be the cause, that is a pure consciousness, that is different altogether. But as an ego is not the cause for this thought. So then, how do these are happening? How are these happening? All these thoughts are the result of combinations and permutations of ideational and emotional programs. Please understand this. All these thoughts are result of combinations and permutations of ideational and emotional programs that are playing on the game board, that are being played there. That's all. They are playing themselves. These programs are there. Ideational, emotional programs are there. And combinations and permutations of these ideational, emotional programs are the cause for this thought flow. Ego is not responsible for that. Ego is only viewing, ego is claiming authorship and getting identified. If this is understood by the ego, then the only thing available is to remain as a witness. Anyway, one is not the author for it. They are there falling into it. That is all. Just as there are so many types of beings that are there, which are getting created. Microorganisms are there, and small living organisms are there. Are we creating any one of them? We may have to deal with them because of the fact that we are living in a particular place and they are also living in a particular place, and we have to encounter them, they have to encounter us, then there might be interaction, and there might be reaction, and there might be karma, there might be karma phala. All these may happen, but we are not creating them. Similarly, even these thoughts also, actually the ego is not creating those thoughts, but claiming. That is what is happening there. So if this is understood, then the best thing would be to remain as a witness and to remain as an observer and allow them to flow by, allow them to pass by. We are only claiming that they are mine. We are only claiming, ignorantly thinking that I have authored them. They are falling. So many programs are there. So they are falling into the mind. They are appearing because of that. So it is also said that witness observer has no resistance. There will be non-resistance. Non-resistance does not mean ignoring, and non-resistance does not mean not at all participating in it. Non-resistance means only witnessing, observing, but being aware of it. The individual is not anymore like an imaginary actor in the movie. There is an imaginary actor in the movie who acts, but here the person is an actual witnessing observer who is not emotionally involved. Emotionally is uninvolved, but yet capable of participation. This is a very interesting thing. Emotionally uninvolved, but capable of participation. As an ego, what happens? We identify, involve, get stuck. But as a witnessing observer, we participate, but emotionally not involved. This is the right state to be with the things that are there around us. Once we are able to do this, then we don't fall a prey to the mentally programmed structures or their outcomes. This is one way. Another way is willingly, devotionally to surrender all this thought flow which is there, which is going on at the feet of God. Meaning, when we surrender our personal will and then leave it at the feet of God, then the divine will enter into us, and that will take care of the unfoldment of awareness. Our awareness has to unfold completely and spread everywhere and touch everything. When that awareness touches everything, then there will be no more identification, but we will only be simply aware of it. This happens through the understanding that even in Sushupti, the Pratyagatma is the Sakshi, and even in Jagrat and Swapna, actually the Pratyagatma is the Sakshi. That is the witness. That is the seer. That is the witnessing consciousness. That is the real observer. When we understand this observation happens in us. The witnessing happens in us. And then we will take the help of Ramaraya Kavi's interpretations. Siddhanta Sindhu, the point number 54. Ramaraya Kavi says, the upadhi of the jiva is antahakarana. Now here, Ramaraya Kavi has a very interesting analysis. He gives the address of the mind based upon scriptural understanding only, but he gives the address of the mind. We'll see what is the address of the mind. Contact address. Upadhi of jiva is called antakarana. That much we are very clear. Because jiva himself is reflected in the antakarana or internal organ, and that is the Chidabhasa, that also is called as the jiva, so on and so forth. So, this antakarana also is referred sometimes by the name buddhi. They don't refer everything. Buddhi, mana, chitta, ahankara, they say one. Sometimes they do like that. Buddhi. And where does it stay? Buddhi. Where is buddhi? Normally people also say no. Sometimes when they are angry at our actions which they don't like and all that. Do you have buddhi? Buddhi hai? Then this individual has to say, pata nahi, aapko pata hai kahan hai? I don't know where it is, but do you know where it is? That is very important. We use the word, is buddhi there? Meaning, are you acting sensibly? Are you acting logically? Like that. Is your behavior proper? But there is a very interesting question there. Buddhi hai, kahan hai? Where is the buddhi? So here, Ramaraya Kavi, by taking the help of the scripture, he says, it stays in the middle of the body. Buddhi stays in the middle of the body, and its dharmas, I think it also means mind, internal organ. Its dharmas like sukham, dukkham, so on and so forth. Whatever its dharmas are there, they are felt near the Hridaya, at the center of the heart. These dharmas are felt at the center of the heart. So, Ramaraya Kavi says in this statement that this mind, or what is called as buddhi, or you may call it as internal organ, so that buddhi, which we are referring here, stays in the center of the heart, in the middle of the body. And this buddhi is said to be of the size of an atom, an anu. But because of the touch of the conscious light, because of the touch of the light of consciousness, it spreads itself and starts pervading the whole body. Just as the light of a lamp, when it is lit, it starts pervading the whole house or the whole hall, wherever it is lit. That is how the lamp, when it is lit, the light pervades the whole hall or the house, and everything that is there in the house is illumined by it. Similarly, when this mind starts spreading everywhere because of the touch of the light of consciousness, it spreads everywhere and it knows everything that is happening anywhere in the body. Anywhere, any corner, anywhere in the body, if something is happening, the mind comes to know about it immediately because it has spread like that. There are various other examples also that are taken to indicate this same thing, so we will take them up whenever we come across that. So this antakarana, as we already know, is the effect of avidya. Avidya is the cause, antakarana is the effect, and it goes out through the indriyas, this should also we have seen, and it meets the object, and it spreads into the object also. Wherever the object is, it goes and meets that object, and then we have already seen yesterday that it takes the shape of the object and comes back and then reports to the Pramatra Chaitanya, that is the Jiva. So all that. Like the sun's light also comes and falls on the object illumine the object as a whole. That is how this mind also goes out and then takes the shape of the object. Then this Antakarana also has Sankocha and Vikasa. Meaning what? Sankocha is there, Vikasa is there. Meaning Antakarana shrinks also and it expands also. That is why again it is said by Ramaraya Kavi here, Antakarana or internal organ or whatever we call as mind is like a pure thin liquid of brilliance, of splendor, of light. Pure thin liquid of brilliance. So it is a Taijasa Dravya. Yesterday also we have seen that. Antakarana is a Taijasa Dravya. That is why, like the ray of the sun, it starts spreading everywhere. Another example Ramaraya Kavi takes is when we take a drop of oil and place it in the water. Slowly the subtle parts of the oil start spreading around everywhere in the water, at least on the surface level, they start spreading around. Like that, this Antakarana also spreads inside and also spreads outside. If there is an object, goes up to the object, and if there is a space between the person and the object, Indriya and the object, it covers the entire space that is there between, and at times also, because it is all expansion of the Manas. And again in the deep sleep, Ramaraya Kavi says, the mind shrinks and enters into Puritat Nadi, and then because it enters into Puritat Nadi, there will be deep sleep. So it shrinks also, it expands also. So all this happens by the mind. So Ramaraya Kavi has told us the address of the mind, the function of the mind, and as well as the nature of the mind, which we have seen. Most of this we have seen in the earlier references by Madhusudana Saraswati yesterday and the day before yesterday also. But the unique point here is the way in which Ramaraya Kavi tries to explain about the same thing. And then he says Atma plus Manas, then Manas plus sense organ, then sense organ plus object, this combination. So inside there is the reflection of consciousness. That reflection of consciousness contacts the mind. Then the mind contacts the sense organ. Sense organ contacts the sense object. That is why when all these are combined, then we gain the direct experience or knowledge of the object. Otherwise we can't gain. Any one is missing here, we can't gain the direct experience. The pratyaksha anubhava of any object can be gained only in this manner. So, Antakarana with parts limited and divided, it has no connection with the Indriyas, with all the Indriyas at the same time. Because it can't see through sense organs, at all sense organs at the same time. With one sense organ, it sees, it experiences the object, it knows the object at one particular time. So that has to be understood. And all Indriyas can give their knowledge in the same time. That also is not possible. But for a Mahayogi, Ramaraya Kavi says, it might be possible. Because that Mahayogi is beyond all these normal limitations of the Upadhi, and then he is beyond this. So for such a person it might be possible. And for some people, through Upasana, power of Upasana, and they gain extra talents, and that is how they are able to meet the questions of 10 people, 20 people, 100 people, more than 100 people at the same time, and they remember everything and they keep on answering one after the avadhanam when they do that. It is all because of extra upasana, the power of the upasya devata getting into the mind. So the mind, much more expansion of the mind takes place, and more absorption of the special qualities takes place, and that is how it happens. For some rare cases, that's what is said. But otherwise, you have to understand that mind has the capacity to shrink also, to expand also. It pervades and everywhere it touches everything, wherever it is directed, and again it goes back and then stays where it has to stay also. Continuing further, it is also said that for our own sake of remembrance, so that we firmly remember this, if one thing gets identification and superimposition with another. There is one thing. It gets identification with the another, superimposition with the another. Then it is said, then that particular thing joins the another thing. That is how there is the identification and superimposition of the Chidabhasa with the mind. So what happens? It joins that mind. It joins that internal organ. It thinks it is one with it. That is why whatever modifications are happening to the internal organ, that happens to this Chidabhasa. And because of Chidabhasa also, there is some superimposition between the Chit and the Chidabhasa. We have seen the other Vidyaranya also has said that when there is such an identification, we have to think that there is someone getting identified here. So like that, because of that, there is a feeling there. That these are all mine and I am getting influenced by all this. So the Pramata is the one who is the knower, who is the one who knows everything. He is also called as a Jiva. Then Pramana is the vritti of the mind. Through that vritti of the mind only, the object is contacted, and then the shape of the object is taken by the vritti and it comes back, and then we come to know about that. Then Pramiti means the knowledge, mere knowledge. And then Prameya means the object of knowledge. So all these things are very important for our further discussions when we go into them later on. And then it is said, Ramaraya Kavi says, Atma Vicharana can be taken up by the mind. Because Vishaya Vicharana is taken up by the mind in this process. If we apply a similar process to the Atma Vicharana also, even then also mind can take up the Atma Vicharana. But as far as Vishaya Protection is concerned, meaning if we want to directly experience the object, becoming one with the Pramartha Chaitanya. The object consciousness has to become one with the knower consciousness through the vritti consciousness. Then the direct experience is gained. But Jnana Pratyaksham, if you want to gain Jnana Pratyaksham, it is said the Pramana Chaitanya, the object of knowledge has to become one with Pramana Chaitanya. Pramana is again that vritti which goes out and then meets the object and comes back. So Jnana Pratyaksham, in the Jnana Pratyaksham there is no necessity for the Jiva to interfere. Because in the higher knowledge also, when the Mahavakyas are kept in mind and continuously contemplated and meditated upon, then when that knowledge is gained, at that time the so-called knower, Jiva, or the so-called ego totally merges into the Parabrahma Tattva. Or it becomes totally eradicated so that the Brahman alone remains. So that is why even here Ramaraya Kavi says, Chaitanyam joined with Antakarana is Jiva. But this Chaitanyam as it is Asanga, meaning totally unattached. Even though it looks like it has joined with Antakarana, that consciousness is totally unattached. Then it is Sarvagam, it is all pervading. It is not limited by the internal organ. And it is Satyam, it is real, because it survives all the 3 periods of time and it illumines the time also. And it is Adhisthana, it is the substratum. So once we know that the consciousness is Asangam, Sarvagam, Satyam, Adhisthana, then we come to know that this alone is reality. Consciousness is reality. But as far as the mind is concerned, it is indeterminable because internal organ is neither real nor unreal. That way one can say about it. So that means it is treated as mithya. So internal organ is mithya. So whatever is there as the content of mithya, one as consciousness can witness it and need not get involved with mithya, need not get identified by mithya, and need not get bound by the mithya. So a witnessing observer is not bound by whatever is there inside the mind, inside the ego, inside the intellect, inside the internal organ. I have heard that in one selection process, the director of a company selected a candidate for a particular job in the interview, and then he asked, generally sometimes in these interviews they ask, please let me know what salary are you looking for? After the selection process, he asked, what salary are you looking for? And this man said, something around 10 lakhs per month. Something around 10 lakhs of rupees per month. And then the director said, how about, along with it, how about 5 weeks vacation? 5 weeks vacation. 14 days, 2 weeks, paid vacation. Full medical insurance, full dental insurance, and full mental insurance. And 100% match by the company for your donations. Wherever you donate, you will be given extra 100%, which you can utilize in whichever manner you want. We will also give to that place wherever you donate. And also, Mercedes-Benz car for your travel, and some other perks and some other involvements, how it is. Now the candidate was unable to take all these things. Surprised. And he said, are you joking, sir? Then he said, yes, you started it. I'm joking, because you started it. For this job, do you think 10 lakhs rupees can be given as a salary? It can only be not more than 25,000 rupees. So you started 10 lakhs, I also started. So even in interview also, which is based on very good facts and the reality and so on and so forth, but still once it takes off as a joke, it can go on building up and both people start interacting. Only in the end they know that it is a joke. Like that, our mind also gets involved with the objects, thinks itself as real and thinks objects as real, and then thinks it is outer, so on and so forth. And finally in the end, only when the knowledge dawns, then only we will come to understand that it is all not real, it is all not real. In one workshop which was being conducted in the company to relieve the stress of the managers. It was a workshop only for managers. So there were the directors also there to observe how these managers are participating in the workshop. So after that, there was some free question answer interactive session where the director questioned one of the managers who was feeling very relaxed, very calm and composed all through the session. He just asked simple question. How do you cope with managerial stress? How do you cope with managerial stress? And that man said, I don't cope with it. Huh? You don't cope with it? How? I cause it. I don't cope with it. I cause it. I cause stress for everybody. I don't have to cope. I cause. So that also is one of the ways of coping up with stress problem, whatever it is. So like that, there are so many causes of stress. Underlying fact of all these causes is identification and involvement. So the best way is to remain as an impersonal witness and the observer. That is very important. Like nowadays people, like the one candidate was asked in an interview, what is that which you expect when I give you this job in the company? What is that? Put it in one statement. And then the candidate says, complete and total authority, minimum responsibility. Complete and total authority. Ego wants power, but doesn't want to be responsible. Minimum responsibility. So, ego is like that. But here, when we say that we are a witness and observer, there is no irresponsibility there and there is no craving for authority there. Because there is no need. It is ego which craves to control other people and enjoys controlling other people. Most of the people who are in power, whatever amount of power it is, as egos they enjoy controlling others. Either by denying or by simply pushing, poking, pulling. Something will be there. The ego starts taking pleasure in it. That is again a fall for the person. To enjoy the pleasure of controlling others at the cost of others is again a negative point for the ego. Controlling others for the sake of the higher ideal and for the sake of their betterment is different. For the sake of selfish pleasure is totally different. There are different ways. That is why it is advised not to get involved in such things, but to be a participant at the same time uninvolved. All this will happen when we know that the consciousness that is there is the Chaitanya, and that is Asangam, and that is Sarvagam, and that is Satyam, and that is Adhisthana. The rest all is superimposed upon it. When we have this understanding, we can proceed further. Once the Human Resources Development Officer went for some rounds in the company. Then he saw one of the workers was playing video games. Suddenly he went, he did not disclose. He went and stood there and then saw he was playing video games. And then he asked the person, this is working hour, this is official time, you are paid for it, and then you are playing video games? Why are you playing video games? And that man says, I didn't know that you were coming, otherwise I would not come. I didn't know that you were coming. Meaning what? If somebody is there watching, then he doesn't want to involve in the games because he wants to be responsible. Similarly, once we awaken that witness and observer in us, which is an inborn, impersonal characteristic of the consciousness, then the ego, mind and other things will not play video games. Meaning, will not play. The video game is what seeing the images and playing. So they also, mind also plays video games, sees the images and identify with the play the games. Get stuck with it. So that games will not be there. Now coming back to the sequential progression. Siddhanta Sindhu point number 57 is said to make the Pramatru Chaitanya identified with the object is called as Pramatru Chaitanya Uparagam. Chaitanya that has got Ahankara, Upadi, it is in Antakarana, it pervades inside the body, and then it can illumine up to that extent. So, to go to outside the body, we need Pramana Chaitanya, meaning Antakarana Vritti, which goes outside, and then whatever knowledge we want to have. Suppose right now there is an object. I do not know that object. This Pramana Vritti goes there and then touches that object and then gets back that information, and also it unveils the consciousness that is supporting that object and then comes back and then gives the information so that we can say that we know this object. Because of that Antakarana Vritti or Pramana Chaitanya, I don't know that object, goes away with that Vritti. Even though Avidya is one, Mula Avidya is one, because of the so many upadis, limiting actions in internal organs, it gets the multiplicity. Then to superimpose the Antakarana Dharmas, Sukham and Dukkham in the Atma and feel that I am happy, I am miserable is purely Bhranti according to Ramarayakar. But in transactional world, he says one thing. This has to be looked at from two different standpoints. From the transactional or empirical status, Sukham and Dukkham are undeniable. We can't deny them. They are there because we are experiencing from the empirical standpoint. But the same thing from the Paramartha Dasha is Mithya. So similarly, world from the transactional level is real, empirically real, transactionally real, but the same world from the Paramarthika Dasha is completely Mithya. This is understood. In the contemplations, we have to remember this point that this whole world, which appears to be so much real, but in the Paramarthika Dasha, it is Mithya. And even in the Sushupti and deep sleep, it is not available. So one can remain without it, one can remain in a state of non-identification or non-requirement with it. Continuing further, he says, he cites from Siddhanta Lesha Sangraha, that scripture, and says, in order to gain certain knowledge, we need Chiduparagam. Chiduparagam means that vritti which goes out to Pramana vritti or Antakarana vritti. And we also need the vritti to remove the covering, veiling, and also need the vritti to manifest the non-difference of Vishaya Chaitanya. Vishaya Chaitanya being one with the Pramana. When they become one, then we come to know about it. So, he cites that and then continues further, applies the same thing to Brahma Chaitanya. And he says, Brahma Chaitanya is pure. But because of the covering of avidya, the jiva does not become aware of the Brahma Chaitanya. Or the jiva does not become Brahmakara because of the covering of avidya. And how to remove the covering of the avidya? Just as the covering of avidya, which is covering the object, is removed by the vritti, similarly, the covering of the avidya on Brahman also can be removed by the vritti. But here it is Vishayakara vritti, there it has to be Brahmakara vritti. If that Brahmakara vritti is created, then it becomes very easy for us to advance further in the spiritual level. See, in the further says, whatever object it is, if an object is pure, if an object is clear, if an object is transparent, that is the first condition. Pure, clear, transparent. And the second condition is, if it is coveringless, if there is no cover, then there is no need for any vritti to gain the knowledge of it, to understand it. If any object has no cover, no veiling, and if it is very clear, and if it is very pure, and if it is very transparent, there is no need for any vritti. Because all these are superimposed upon consciousness. The consciousness initially is covered by avidya, and after that these are all superimposed on it. So this is another layer that is there on the avidya. It is again, so because of this, the covering is there and lack of clarity. Clarity also is not. That is the reason why we are not able to know. So then he says, making the Jiva Chaitanyam identified with the object which is Vishayam is the functionality of the Pramana Chaitanya or Vritti Chaitanya or Chiduparagam. In the process, there is covering or no clarity must be there. See, because when the Vritti Chaitanya goes, it removes that covering and it also makes it clear. In an ordinary object, when it is not clear and when it is covered, we don't know how it is, we don't know what it is. But because of this Vritti Chaitanya thought which goes there and then takes the shape, it removes the covering, it makes things clear. Thought can do both the things in respect to ordinary object, and similarly the Mahavakya thought, the statement of the Upanishads, that also can do the same thing. But here, in case of Brahma Vidya, Brahman is very clear. Brahman is self-luminous. In case of ordinary object is not self-luminous. But Brahman is self-luminous, but only covering is there. So the covering only has to be removed. We need not make the Brahman clear, but here the objects, we have to make them more clear. So like that, the objects shine only due to two dharmas. What are those two dharmas? Swachhata, clarity, purity and transparency, and Niravarana, no covering. If one of them is absent, then we need vritti to recognize them, to know them. So this is all analysis that is connected with the utility of the vritti. Once one visitor went to see how things are happening in a psychic ward in a hospital where all psychic patients are there. Then he wanted to know how they decide to accept a person as a patient and an inmate, how they join them. So he went and asked the doctors, and there was the director of the psychic ward also present. Then he said, whenever people come, they are not told that they are coming to a psychic ward, because any psychic person is not interested to come to a psychic ward if you tell. They come like you, a normal person. But once they come, we conduct some test, and in that test, if they fail, we understand that they are psychic cases, and then we will join them. So the people who get them also, they will say that you have to stay here for some time, just to relax and just to have some lot of fun and all that, and they will join. Oh, so what all you ask the person? So this visitor will ask me. Then the director said, simple. We take the person near the bathtub, and then we fill the bathtub with water fully, and afterwards we give him a tablespoon, a teacup, and a bucket. 3 items: a tablespoon, a teacup, and a bucket, empty ones. And then ask the person to empty them. Ask the person to empty. And immediately this visitor was so much enthusiastic. He said, yeah, a normal person would pick up bucket because it is large inside. A normal person would pick up bucket because it is normal inside. And he would empty the bathtub. And the director said, no. A normal person would simply unplug and then allow the water to go into the drain from the water tub itself, from the bathtub itself. He will just unplug. He will not pick up teaspoon or cup, tablespoon or cup or bucket. He will just unplug it. The water goes away automatically. You have to plug it to allow the water to stay on. If you unplug it, it will go away. Oh, that is how you decide. And the director said, yes, you are taken in. You are taken in. You can come in now, you can join. This is how we decide. So, only when we get into this analysis of the thought, how it functions, how it relates to the world, how it comes back and how it analyzes, then only we know that we are caught in its network. Then only we will come to know how we come out of it. So that is why these masters take us more into these intricacies of these thoughts. So then, Ramaraya Kavi says here, I am Brahmic consciousness. This knowledge that says the above statement is Brahma Jnana. What is this Brahma Jnana? I am Brahmic consciousness. The statement is Brahma Jnana. I am Brahmic consciousness. And what is Brahma Ajnana? I am a samsari and not Brahman. This statement is Brahma Ajnana, ignorance of Brahman. That is knowledge of Brahman, Brahma Jnana. Not that one has attained Brahman, but Brahman Jnanam. Brahma Jnanam is available in satsang, available in Upanishad. So, I am Brahmic consciousness is Brahma Jnana, and I am a samsari and not a Brahman. He is a Brahma Ajnana. And this Brahma Ajnana is because of delusion and supported by Ajnana. The statement is because of delusion. And of course it is supported by Ajnana. So it is said, Brahma Ajnana is eradicated by the thought of vritti of Brahma Jnana. Gaining liberation through darshan of Satchidananda and becoming one with Atman, that is called as Anubhava Siddhi. Practical experience of attaining Brahman. Getting liberation to Darshana Prachidananda and becoming one with Atma. That is what is called as proof of experience. Once a person gains it, nobody can deny it. But Ajnanam will go away only through Jnanam. Because Jnanam opposes Ajnanam. It will go away only through Jnanam. Then there is a analysis like a disciple asking the master, how to gain the Jnanam? What are the simple methods of gaining the Jnanam? And retaining the gained Jnanam. One can gain the Jnanam but it may disappear. But how to get into that state where one can gain the Jnanam and retain it? Then Ramaraya Kavi says, first point required here is selfless actions are important. Selfless actions. Through selfless actions, one attains the purity of Chitta. Purity of Chitta, Ramaraya Kavi says, purity means eradication of I-ness and minus. That is purity. Purity doesn't mean pure I and pure minus. Eradication of I-ness and minus and desire and anger. Ramaraya Kavi's standard is different for purity. Eradication of I-ness minus, desire and anger, etc. other things. If this is eradicated, that is called as purity. How the purity will come? Through selfless actions. Act, but selflessly. For the sake of God, for the sake of ideal, for the sake of vision, for the sake of nation, whatever it is. But not egoistically and selfish, but selflessly. If you keep on acting, bringing God into the picture, then it becomes easy to attain that purity. Once a Chitta attains purity, when there is no more I-ness, no more minus, no more overpowering desires and angers, then that Chitta becomes Sattvic, meaning Sattva Pradhana. Sattva Pradhana Sattvic. And when the Chitta becomes Sattva Pradhana, it gains eligibility to receive Jnanam. It gains eligibility to receive Jnanam, then it can totally retain the Jnanam, then Ajnanam will be destroyed. So the best thing to start with, according to Ramaraya Kavi, says, do the karmas, but do the karmas with akama buddhi, without any intense desire in it. Akama buddhi and Ishwararpanam. If we do the karma with akama buddhi and Ishwararpanam, then we will attain Chitta Shuddhi. If we do the karma with desire and egocentric attitude, selfishly, how many karmas we may do, how much our karmas we may do, but we will never attain Chitta Shuddhi. There are many people, even in the spiritual field, pretending to be spiritual aspirants and practitioners and sadhaks, but they indulge in selfish actions, ego-centered actions, full of desire, full of I-ness and minus. Externally, they look they are spiritual. Internally, whole thing is completely worldly. So the Chitta Shuddhi will never happen. So they will not have peace, they will not have serenity, they will not have joy, they will be always in a state of restlessness, frustration, anger, giving in to negative emotions, and then becoming a prey to mentally programmed structures. Once a man went to a doctor and handed over a note, gave a note. The doctor read the note. The note says, I can't talk, please help me. The note says, I can't talk, please help me. The doctor looked at the patient. He said, place the thumb of your right hand on the table. That man could not understand how the thumb placing on the right hand thumb placing on the table is connected with the talking. The doctor said, place it, and he placed the thumb on the table. Then the doctor took out very huge, heavy book from his library racks that are there, and took it out, took it up, and just allowed it to fall onto the thumb. He was watching, suddenly he was caught by another. Suddenly it fell on the thumb. The moment it fell on the thumb, he said, "Ah!" Then the doctor said, first alphabet is taught to you. Ah, which in English is A. Here A, E. So, next one's second alphabet I will teach you tomorrow. Will the patient go there with this type of teaching methodology? He will never go. But if he goes, he will teach. How he will teach next alphabet, go and find out. That is all. It is his choice how he will teach. Whatever it is. So the idea here is, whenever we encounter certain tough situations in the world, it is at that time our mind, our internal organ gets a jolt. At that time, instead of getting into the games played by the internal organ there and then getting identified with it and keeping that alone in the mind, we need to recollect this knowledge which is there and then become a witness and become an observer of that particular incident or event. From there also we can get into a higher state. But for a normal person, it is the best thing would be to take up these selfless actions easily. Somebody asked, Brahman is without a form, highest state of Brahman. And if Brahman is without a form, how can that which is formless come to a state where it gains the Chidabhasa state, a state of reflection? Then the master answers, just as the space which is formless, which has no form, no recognizable form, no perceivable form, but still it becomes abhasa in a lake or even in a pot. We can see the reflection of the space, reflection of the sky. Just as the formless sky becomes a reflection, similarly the formless Brahman also becomes a reflection of Chidabhasa. And then, just as by the knowledge of the mind, we understand that this is a reflection and that is the original. And original is never inside the medium of reflection. It is always free from the bondage of the medium of reflection. Here also, this knowledge that is there in the scriptures, again in the form of thoughts, will make us understand that we actually originally the formless consciousness, now caught in the reflecting media and bound as a reflection, are not the reflection, and we are that original source of reflection, and they are beyond all these limited entity or upadhis. So Ramaraya Kavi says, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma or Aham Brahmasmi Vritti. If we constantly takes it as an example, that's all. When we take it up in our contemplation, then he says, the covering of the consciousness is removed by these Mahavakyas. And he further says, even though through yukti and jnana, through logic and knowledge, we know that Brahman exists. With all this logic and knowledge, we know that Brahman exists. But we don't have experience of it. We have intellectual knowledge. Ramaraya Kavi says the experience of it is called as Anubhavam, and then realizing of it is called as Sakshatkara. Experiencing it and realizing it. Anubhavam and Sakshatkara. For Anubhavam and Sakshatkara, we need Shravanam, Mananam, Vididhyasanam, and Jnana. So listening to it again and again, reflecting upon it, contemplating upon it, and then finally getting into a state of meditating upon it. Then he takes us into this analysis. Chaitanya is of two types. One is with Antakaranam and another one is with object. And Ramaraya Kavi uniquely gives this example. It is like total space and the all space. Consciousness with internal organ, consciousness with object. Consciousness with internal organ is like the larger space, consciousness with object is like the space in a smaller enclosure. And then he also says Ajnana also is of two types. A very nice analysis. One is Asattva and second one is Apana. One is in Sakshi, another one is in Brahman. Pot does not exist. Pot does not exist. This is the statement on a pot that is there. Pot is already there. But we have a notion in our mind, pot does not exist. This is called as Asattva. Pot does not exist, even when an object exists. And then, I don't know the pot. Pot is there, but I don't know the pot. And this is called as Apana, which is also called as Aprakasham or Ajnana. Pot is there. Pot does not exist. Asattva. I don't know the pot. Apana. These two types of ignorance is there. Asattvam, Apana. Let it be very clear. Pot does not exist. Asattvam. Pot is not known to me. I don't know the pot. Apana. Now, he continues with this analysis. Brahma is necessary. Knowledge related to the object which is not known and eternal or permanent. That is called as Brahma. Knowledge related with the object which is not known by us, but the object is eternal or permanent. So that is how Brahma is very important. Now, with the help of the Brahma, what happens is, whatever is not known will become known. If I don't know anything, I will come to know about it. Initially, I do not know that an object exists. So I say what does not exist. So I have to gain knowledge of it. That is how scriptural knowledge, yukti, all gives us the understanding that Brahman exists. Like pot exists. Earlier we say pot doesn't exist. So it is natural for the people to say Brahman doesn't exist, God doesn't exist. Natural. But we need to get exposed to satsangs so that we get all the knowledge, information, then we do some practice. Then we will come to understanding that yes, God exists, Brahman exists. But I don't know. Pot exists, but I don't know the pot. How to know the pot? Then to continue further, we need Aparoksha Brahma. Ordinary Brahma and Aparoksha Brahma. Aparoksha Brahma removes the Abhana, and then we come to know that the pot, I know the pot. I know the pot. Then it becomes easy. See here, once again he says this. Pot exists. Pot exists. This Brahma or this knowledge removes ignorance. And later on, what happens? Pot exists. But I have to know the pot. To know the pot, not only that the covering has to be removed, but the manifestation which happens there has to enter into my mind. And then when it enters into my mind, then only I can come to know it. So the Brahman does not exist, is ignorance of Brahman. He is removed by the Yukti and Apta Vakya. Apta Vakya is again from the Guru or from anybody who knows this. So, of the scripture. So, I am not Brahman. That cannot be removed. Brahman exists? Yes. Brahman doesn't exist, that is removed by the knowledge through Yukti and through Apta Vakya, through knowledge and all that. But I don't know Brahman and I am not Brahman. This is removed only by Brahma Sakshatkara Anubhavam. That is how, even though we know from the scriptures that God exists in me, and God exists as consciousness in me, God exists as consciousness everywhere, all this we know, but we are not having that direct experience of the Brahman, realization and experience, Anubhavam and Sakshatkara of Brahman. So here he says, Paroksha Jnana removes Asattva Avarana. Paroksha Jnana. Whatever is said, it is not existing, the Paroksha Jnana removes. But whatever says, I don't know, Aparoksha Jnana removes Abhavana. Abhana. So, avidya is removed only by aparoksha Brahma Jnana. The direct and immediate knowledge of Brahman is very important and very necessary. So it is like he says, there is a famous example which is given every time in the scriptural teachings, that there are 10 people who crossed one river to go to attend a function. So the guru of those 10 people said, you should be intact and you should always be together and you should not function in such a way that you miss anybody from the group. Go attend the function and come back. So they got into the boat and then they went to the other side. Then one person got a doubt. We have to count and see whether there are 10 people. So he started counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 10th fellow is missing. He said 10th fellow is missing. He said, you wait, second fellow counted. And the second fellow counted, 10th fellow missing. Third fellow counted, 10th fellow is missing. So they all of them sat together and decided that 10th fellow is missing. He fell down in the river. And somebody started even preparing some making arrangements for the departure ceremony also. 10th fellow is missing. So then finally they had to wait for some sadhu to pass by that way. And then they are all worried and anxious and then very confused. Why? Because our guru sent 10 people, one fellow fell in the river. Said, how? And then he said, I see, this is all I am counting. Then that sadhu had to tell, you are the 10th person. Dashamo Asti, you are the 10th person. Hey, I am the 10th person. Thank you for bringing the 10th person out of the river. Thank you for really making the person alive. Thank you. Only because of you, the 10th person came back. And they started celebrating. Whatever it is. The idea is this. Once he knows that I am the 10th person, thereafter there is no more a doubt about the ignorance of the 10th person. Like that, right now we don't know that Brahman, I am Brahman. So that I am Brahman knowledge is given by the Shruti and Yukti and Videke, but finally we come to know about it when the man says, hey, I am the 10th person. That is. So I am Brahman knowledge comes through Aparoksha Jnana. But Aparoksha Jnana arises through the Brahmakara Vritti. So Mahavakya has to be kept in mind and continuously pursued. So when that Aparoksha Jnana arises, then afterwards there is no question of one's involvement with mind and components of Antakarana and contents of mind, and none of these Antakarana dharmas which are there, Sharirika dharmas which are there, whether they belong to the body or whether they belong to the mind or even when they belong to anything that is there around in the process of creation, will ever touch the individual. None of them will touch the individual. There was one person who went for a dental checkup, and then the reception clerk asked the person to fill up certain forms. As he was filling up, he said, the reception clerk gave a few forms, and he was filling up the first form and said, is this form just to say that even if you pull your head out, we are not responsible for it. You can't sue in the court of law. Isn't that? He asked. Sometimes there are regular forms. Even if you pull your head out, we are not responsible. You can't sue us in the court of law. And that reception clerk said, no, this is not that. That is the second form. And this form, even if that happens, you still have to pay. This form is that. Even if that happens, you still have to pay. So, the idea is the fellow goes there for checkup, but he has to sign such a document that even if there is a mistake on their part, this fellow has to pay. And afterwards, he can't even sue in the court. He gets caught. Like that, Jiva also gets caught in the network that is there in the world outside, and then the internal organ which is there inside. Because of this network, he is unable to go beyond it. So we need the help of the Shruti, Yukti, Jnanam, and as well as the Brahmata, which says that I am not any one of these body, mind, intellect, memory, ego equipments, but I am only the pure consciousness. How to make it a contemplation inside? Adi Shankaracharya in Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Sara Sangraha says this. Na deho na cha, na deho na chakshani, na prana vayuhu, mano na vibuddhihi, na chittam kyapandihi, yadesha madishkana, bhutam vishuddham, तदेकं परं सत्तदेवाहमस्मि न देहो न चाक्षामि न प्राणवायु मनो नापि बुद्धिर्न चित्तं च बन्धिः यदेशामधिष्ठानभूतं विशुद्धं तदेकं परं सत्तदेवाहमस्मि यदेशामधिष्ठानभूतं विशुद्धं तदेकं परं सत्तदेवाहमस्मि. He says, na deho na chakshani na pranavayu. I am not the gross body. The contemplation has to be like this. Na deho, I am not the gross body. I am not the eye, na chakshani. I am not the eye. And na pranavayu. I am not the various other sense organs also. I am not the pranavayu also. I am not the prana which is doing all movements inside also. Manona vibuddhirna chittam yahamdihi. I am not the mind, and I am not buddhi, I am not intellect, I am not the memory, and I am not the ego. I am none of them. Neither the mind, or the intellect, or the memory, or the ego. I am not the gross body, I am not the sense organs, and I am not the prana body. Then who am I? Yadesha adhisthana bhutam vishuddham tadekam param sattadevahammasmi. I am the substratum which supports body, sense organs, pranas, mind, intellect, memory, and ego. I am the one who supports. I function as substratum. And then, Tat Ekam, I am the one without a second. Param, the supreme, Sat, real, Deva, the godliness. I am the one supreme, real God. The God alone am I. That supreme, real one God alone am I. I am that one supreme reality. Na desho, na kalo, na divyapya hamsyam, na vasvastaram, tula sukshmani rupam, yadesha madhisthana, rupam vishuddham, tadekam param, sattadevahammasmi. Na desho, na kalo, na divyapya hamsyam, na vasvastaram stula sukshmani rupam, yadesha madhisthana rupam vishuddham, tadekam param sattadevahammasmi. Yadesha madhisthana rupam vishuddham, tadekam param sattadevahammasmi. Na desho, I am not the space. Na kalo, I am not the kala, I am not the time. Na dik va api ahamsyam, I am not even the directions, east, west. I am not any one of these things. Meaning what? If I am not the kala, I am not at all bound by the kala. I am not the space. There is no question of being bound by the space. But everything in this world is limited by time, space, and objectivity, and then it is bound by all kinds of limitation. I am not at all any one of those things. I am not the space. I am not the time. I am not any one of these directions. I am not the gross or the subtle objects. I am not any one of them. Then what am I? I am not even the gross object. I am not also the subtle object. And what am space also, I am the substratum. For all the directions also, I am the substratum. If I am here, then around me there are directions. Because I am in a particular place, there is spaces around me, and then I say this is east, that is west, that is I say. But you are there. For you, east starts from there. For me, east starts from here. My east is your west because you are there, I am here. You look at me and say you are on the western side. I look at him and say you are on the eastern side, my east. And he is for me, I am the west. So these are all not starting from any point. They are all relative directions, even with the normal logical mind also. So then, and then the time that is there, I normally think I am bound by time, I am born in time, I am dying in time, I am growing in time. But here the understanding is, the very time also is illumined by consciousness. And this consciousness is not time. This consciousness doesn't need time. So I am only the support and substratum of all this. If I understand that now at this point of time I am in great tension. First of all, the time only is not there. Then in this point of time, what is there? So that way if we can contemplate whenever we are experiencing these situations, that this time itself is illumined by me. I am not time nor anything in the time. I am not affected by anything in the time. No directions can affect me. None of these directions can affect a limited entity. One who is everywhere. How directions? Even directions also are illumined by that. That is beyond this direction. So that way, if we can contemplate, then what happens is we get out of this limitation. Now we are thinking I am the body, I am the mind, I am the intellect, I am the ego, I am identified with the thoughts. When we get these pointers that I am none of these things, I am the support and substratum, this type of contemplation will take us out of the regular ongoing thinking process in the mind with which we are identified that I am this, I am this, I am this, I am this, I am this. Then we come out of that. And then again coming back to the starting statements that there is an inborn, impersonal characteristic of consciousness inside, that is witness, that is the observer, that is naturally there, that is always there. All that we need to do is to understand that it is there, then it will start functioning. So may we all attend in that manner and then try to become a witness and observer, uninvolved, and will simply allow things to pass. Om Vagishwaraya Vidmahe, Om Vagishwaraya Vidmahe, Hayagrivaya Dhimahi, Hayagrivaya Dhimahi, Tanno Hayagriva Prachodayat, Tanno Hayagriva Prachodayat, Om Akshareshwaraya Vidmahe, Om Akshareshwaraya Vidmahe, Mantra Rajaya Dhimahi,
Vishnave Mangalam.
विष्णवे मंगलम
विष्णवे मंगलम
हयग्रीव 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 मंगलम
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः श्रीपरमात्मने नमः श्री परम